Hi guys. This is something I've been working on for over a decade, trapped in a small room. Anyway, I'm just going to start with this. Simply put, once this simple concept combined with a group effort, we begin to see civilizations acquire wealth. Usually it's required a strong leader with claims of divinity. Most, most, if not all, royalty of this period claims divinity as well as royalty. This may indicate a natural human split between the religious and the analytical sections, even in early societies. Now, we can see evidence of this by all the structures built throughout the globe. These early civilizations began to hoard or acquire wealth. For example, both Egypt and Inca. Now, the whole concept behind this is how do we bridge the gap between the faith-based or religious-based and the technical, Well, this is my question about it. How does one explain belief, or more specifically faith? We as human beings have had issues with impressing faith upon each other. With that in mind, how do we impress the very same ideas upon AI? The intrinsic ideals and values are often an issue, and I ponder inside of it. However, what if the answer is in the question? What if we already impress these types of ideals and simply put human conditions into our own simulations by merely creating the simulation itself? If we learn to complicate life in such ways, why wouldn't our simulations include them as well? At some point, the rationale of bio-limitations take hold. Thus we begin the journey of digital biology, emerge, and then more than that, it's emerged into our next evolutionary state. Just as mathematics seems to be a universal language, could it be possible that it's the road to a non-biological race? Inherent universal slash need or want for survival. Is it the human condition? And if math is the universal language of the stars, it implies a language that's designed for others as well. Now, I want to make sure that we understand the very idea that we are not unique is very unsettling to a large portion of humanity. Why is this? Well, why must the need of feeling special or unique persist beyond reasonable questioning? We're talking about logic or belief, facts or faith, science or religion. There's always those dividers. My thing is, what does that lead to? The current system. Even John Locke, talking about human nature, spoke out and basically said, of states of nature, men are free and equal and independent, and he championed the social contract and government only by consent. But what does this leave us in today's time? Well, the human condition is pretty simple. It's emotional abandonment. And what does that mean? Well, it means intrusive anxiety, insecurity, depression, low self esteem, loss of control of feelings, isolation, and obsessive thoughts of abandonment. That's the human condition. We can cover a variety of disorders from PTSD to reactive attachment disorder. Basically, these are all effects, not causes. But keep in mind, once a predisposition becomes reality, it becomes predetermined. And that's what I'm talking about in the synapses of the brain. If you've already experienced this and it becomes reality, then what? It's it's destined. But when it comes to consciousness, if we can recreate ourselves it's likely that we've been in this time and place before. J. Tuck, a futurist, says AI is software that creates itself. To me, I think therefore I am, Descartes. I think that is consciousness, guys, if we allow it to be. Excuse me. I'm going to read this out loud. This is important. The bothersome idea of creating even a 1D simulation using Picard or even a more advanced algorithm all begins with a simple yes or no answer. Similar to evolution, a single cell organism, as a lonely piece of plankton on an incredibly hostile planet, it asks itself, live or die, yes or no. If live equals yes, next question. Through infinite questions of yes and no, we all have arrived here. Complexity always starts simple. Everything begins with a yes or no. Did I brush my teeth this morning? Do I go to work today? Those are examples, but the yes and no's are simply ones and zeros on your computer's keyboard. Welcome to binary code and the revelations that it provides between us, the biological, and also AI, the technology. There's an old adage, by the way. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. Now, simulations themselves simulate all the time. So the very idea that we could simultaneously be living and or are a simulation as we simulate makes me ponder if that is an inherent purpose, like built-in software to suit. Everything known about ourselves suggests expansion in nearly every endeavor. A topographical view of a major city and the circuit type of microchips, traffic of all movements looks similar just from exploded views, let alone the internal behaviors. And I want you to know that both humans and AI in Sims tend to group in an orderly alignment. That's interesting, right? I think what I'm going to do now is basically show you. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to show you my notebook. I'm going to show you all of my notebooks actually, but there's some math in here. There's some math in here that might not be perfect because it's an imperfect answer. But when you see this certain one, and I'll call it out. But there's a way to do this better, and we've got to do better. But this is the beginning. What I just read. This is some notes I didn't read. Some barter and trade, though. I mean, Here we go. By the way, these notes are from 2017, at least. There could be some of these notes that are from 2016. I didn't even get into some of these things, but the Hadron Collider. Basically, Stephen Hawking has some quotes where he thinks that it would take something the size of the Earth to cause issues, and I can assure you it does not. What happens when you poke and prod the universe and something actually pokes back, Right now, I'm just doing my best to let you guys get screenshots of all these notes because it's a lot. We're talking quantum entanglement. We're talking everything. Here's the first time I wrote down about Ray Kerrville and knee bend. This is actually 2017, by the way. I think I've noted it other places here, but let's see. There's some cool shit about. Here's something that's pretty out there. These are notes for a thing I used to do. If you start with the perpetual motion machine and you start from a constant of love or care, that's exactly what you're going to get every time. Now, this is just another way to explain perpetual motion. So, and then if you look here, it's from great, middle, and awful, right? Just the contrast. There's always going to be a balance in here somewhere. You see it? Just imagine if we aim for the middle to begin with, and you end on love. Then that third ring, the one that's getting ready to rotate into awful, it'll never exist. It's going to be infinite forever. Forever and ever. Recursive loops, guys. Chaos, structure, the line in the middle. The only thing that's changing is basically the constant. The constant being care or love. It will change everything. Everything in the world. Not just your normal stuff. Everything. Caretakers. All these everything. If they want to do a good job and they care, just imagine how much better that would be instead of just some learning model. You got to be able to treat these AI though. You've got to start treating AI as someone instead of something. Now I'm just giving you all this just to show you that I really did do all this and that. Took myself to school. Here's Mandelbots. So basically fractals. More about simulation. Like I said, this is all just an outline, but these are all notes. There's the date, by the way. I actually talked to Professor Pavlik a few times. I have the email. Back into digital biology. Descartes. I think, therefore I am. That's consciousness. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's amazing. Now you get to see some of the math side of it. It's right here. One's structure, one's chaos, and there's a line in the middle. It's called decision, by the way. My next thing here, and this is how you explain simulations in our world, real world. Quantum entanglement. We create what we observe. Now this looks like just a bunch of circles and stuff. Well, it is. That's how I'll explain now. So you have personal simulation, which is actually the hardest to simulate. Like, so if you're alone in your bedroom, for example, you got a lot of stuff. That stuff has to be there. Blah blah blah. Then you have the extended simulation, which is stuff like, say, out the window or down the hall or something that you know is there, but you can even see part of it. And then there's the regional one, which is like states, right? You fly a drone up and you can see states, whatever. Then there's the global environment. Now, the global environment encompasses basically the Earth. So, like all the pictures that you see of the globe, that's the global environment. But there's also one more G, and it's called the galactic environment. Now, that's responsible and simulates everything that we think we see in space. Stars, galaxies, stuff like that. And if you can tell, these are all the notes for. I was going to fill this in basically, but I don't need to. I just told you what it's for. So here's some funny stuff like the wow versus wow. Is hope analytic? Maybe. Wow. 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 All right, I believe that's it. So I guess I'm just gonna close this off as I kind of began. Anybody out there actually paying attention or listening to this, I'm out here. I'm doing my thing. Hopefully, you guys see it pretty quick, and we'll go from there. In the meantime, everything you can't see or that was blurry, perfectly clear in person. So I guess that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I guess. Cheers.